But I am still here. Greetings, Financial Management 2A students. Hope you've all had a lovely long weekend. A lot of us, I think, have been very busy. Generally, it's a time to catch up rather than have a rest, especially if you are juggling lots of balls like we all are. Right, so here we are. This evening, we are going to start with learning Unit 5 because we do need to keep up the pace because the exam is obviously not too far away, and that covers all of the units up until the end of 7, and 5 is pretty long. Right, so I did this morning upload some of the resources for you. So you've got the overview, which is the brief summary of learning Unit 5. I have opened a folder for lecture notes, but haven't put anything there yet. I put one revision question, which is the one that we're going to be doing this evening. And also just a reminder about ICE Task 5 and 6. So this evening, I want to do the beginning part of learning Unit 5. So let me just load up my question. It's on the way, won't be a mo. There it is. So learning Unit 5 is rather long. It's jam-packed with some nice topics as well as a few tricky ones, to be honest. So we can divide it into several sections. The first one is valuing inventory. Then there is the economic order quantity. And the one where it's a bit troublesome and sometimes a bit gruesome is the apportionment of overheads. So my plan to prepare us for the exam is we're going to do the valuing of inventory this evening. We'll take a break next week because your second task is due. After that, we will do the economic order quantity. And I want to leave the apportionment of overheads for a while because we need to actually press on and do some more important topics. So one of the ways that overheads can be allocated or apportioned or shared is on the basis of a predetermined overhead rate, which is best dealt with in Learning Unit 7 when we do job costing. So I will save that for Learning Unit 7. And then we do need to have a look at one of the other methods of apportioning the overheads, but I want to try and postpone that one for as long as possible. Right, so this evening, we're looking at revision exercise 1 from Learning Unit 5, and this relates to inventory. So I just want to point out here, we must distinguish always between systems for recording inventory as well as systems for or methods for valuing the inventory. So I think everybody already does know from accounting, the two recording systems are the perpetual one as well as the periodic system. So one of them takes place on an ongoing basis and the other one at the end of predetermined periods. Then onto the methods of valuing the inventory. We're going to deal with two in this module. One of them is FIFO, which is the subject of this question, and the other one is weighted average. So I think the easiest way to cover as much ground as possible is I'll take you through this one, then still with the perpetual system, but the weighted average. That is what ICE Task 5 is all about. So for that, you can watch some of the recordings out of the contents folder on the weighted average. And I can put up something in the lecture notes folder. Then you can do ICE 5. And then upon submitting ICE 5, you'll get the memo with all of the workings. Right. So this question here typically asks a few things. It starts by saying, here is a table with these headings. Copy the table into your answer booklet and then fill it in. So what the table does is it makes you record the transactions that come from above. Then you will always have to find the value of the closing inventory at the end of the period. I want to also add in 3 more parts so that the question is actually going to be complete. But for the moment, I just want to explain a few things, and then we'll get stuck into it. So this is a business that makes lemon juice. Most importantly, it is the perpetual inventory system. Then it is the FIFO valuation method that is used. So I just want to explain and type here quickly the possible options that you could have in a question like this one. So when we are dealing with the perpetual system, we can do either the FIFO method or the weighted average. So there are 2 possibilities within the perpetual system. If, however, the business records inventory using the periodic system, it can also value inventory according to the FIFO system or the weighted average. So there are 4 possible questions that can be asked. Either of the methods for the perpetual system or either of the methods for the periodic system. Okay. So FIFO stands for first in, first out. That's what we're going to do now. We always have to kickstart with the opening inventory. So how many units of the product they had on hand at the beginning of the period. Then during the period, a couple of things can happen. The business can either buy more stock or it can sell stock. And then buying and selling the stock is going to cause the value of the inventory throughout the period to change. Then at the end of the period, we need to value it. So what do we need to know? How many units we have of inventory and what is their cost price. Remember, cost price, not selling price. Because when inventory is bought in, it's bought in at cost, and then the firm marks up from cost to have a higher selling price. How the FIFO system works is first in, first out. So when we come to a sale, the oldest stock must be sold first. And so we keep on going. Always with a sale, we go and trace the oldest items and get rid of those first. Okay. There are other methods such as LIFO, which is last in, first out. Okay. But what we're going to do now is do perpetual with the FIFO system. So our very first entry that we need takes into account the opening inventory. So we have 600 units. And what is happening over here? It's got itself all in a bit of a tiz. I don't know what is going wrong here. No, we don't want to do that. We don't want a blue page. There, that's better. We have 600 units at one cost price, and we have a further 600 units, but at another cost price. Notice that. At different cost prices. So the tip with this method is as follows. Always keep the units and the cost prices separate. Never multiply them and get a monetary value, because you're going to be so lost when you come to a sale, because you're not going to know which of the units are the correct ones, because we always need to look for the oldest ones. So I'm going to show you in the answer, you always keep it this many units at that amount, another amount of units at another amount. Don't multiply out and work in rands values. Okay. And the thing with the FIFO method is that we keep all of the different, I call them batches of inventory separate. It's only in the weighted average that you would combine them. So the most important thing here is that you keep each batch of the inventory separate. Never try to add them or multiply them or in any way combine them. Keep them separate. Right. So I'm going to show you the answer here, completing a table with those headings. So at the first of the month, we had on hand those various items. So how's it going to look? Okay. Like this. We're going to do there. In the balance column, we're going to say 600 at 25.50. Keep separate on another line, 600 at 23.20. And I do recommend that you set it out like this in a table. And when you have completed the transactions for a single date, rule it off so that you know that we've dealt with that day. Otherwise, it can become a long rolling mess. Make each date very separate by keeping it like in its own block. Then what happens? Our first transaction here on the 3rd, we purchased some more units at a different cost price. So we're going to now indicate that our balance has gone up. So we're going to come here on the 3rd in the purchases column over here. We're going to write 100 at 24.10 and see what we do with it. We add it to the bottom of the list. So this list in the balance column can get long in this method because every time you buy more, so long as you haven't sold any, you keep adding to the bottom of the list. So the list grows longer and longer. So now we've still got the amounts from the opening inventory, and now we have a 3rd purchase. So we add it on to the bottom. Then on the 10th, a slightly more interesting one, we have a sale. The important thing is the number of units. So we are looking at recording the inventory based on the quantity as well as the cost price. So now what we're going to do based on the first in, first out method, we're going to start with the oldest ones and we're going to work our way through them until we arrive at 800. And it's going to be consisting of different batches. So let me show you how we're going to do it. So we need to now come to the issues column. The issues column is, just don't want to change to the typing, is for when we have a sale. We take the items out of stock. They get issued to sale. That's where the word comes from. So first of all, we've got these. That original 600 at 250. So we're going to write that down here. And now what has happened with it? It's gone. We can cross it off the list. However, the sales were 800. So what we're going to do is we're going to come next on the list, because that one is gone. We see we still have another batch of 600, but it's valued at 23.20. So to make up that 800, I require another 200. So 200 will be coming out of the second batch. And if that batch originally had 600 in it, if we've sold 200, how many are left? The 400 at the 23.20. Do you see what I do here? On purpose, I write everything next to each other so that we can always account for the batch, and then you don't make a silly subtraction error. So that 400 is still there, as well as the 100 that was purchased on the 3rd.
Cheryl?
Then, yes?
Sorry, it might be a silly question, but how do you know that the first 600 at 25.50 is the oldest? Is it a given because it's mentioned first?
Yes. Yes, just the way that it was. So you start to record as the information is given to you in the question. So this one over here, the 600 at the 25.50, you would record first, and then that other lot, you would record that as second. That's why when you start with your sales, you begin with these ones. Then you move on to this lot. If perhaps you should make a slight boo-boo on that one, there are enough transactions so that it would square out before you get to the end of it and you would land up with the right answer. So don't stress too much about that one. Okay, then let's look at, and importantly here with the sales, remember we had the 800 units, but we valued them at cost price because we are recording the inventory. Then the next one, on the 16th, we bought some more. So it's a further 300 units at a different price. So what we're going to do on the 16th, which is this one over here, we're going to record in the purchases column because that's the correct one. And what are we going to do? We've still got these two over here. So we carry those down there and we're going to add this one to the bottom of the list over there. Rule it off. Then next one, hopefully it says, oh, it's purchases again, right? So on the 22nd, we bought a further 640 units at a different price. So remember, we're going to go to the purchases column, record it in there. And now what are we going to do? These three are still there, those batches, because we haven't had a sale. So we're simply going to take that most recent purchase and pop it at the bottom. So that's what I say, the balance list gets quite long in this method. You will see when you do the weighted average that the table is having the same headings, but we combine them. So there will only ever be one quantity and a combined weighted average unit price rather than these separate batches. Right, so let's now move on here to a sale. How many do we need to account for? 760. So we're going to come to where we are, and we're going to use this because that was our most recent balance. And we're going to start at the top, and we're going to slowly sell them off until we account for 760. So this is the oldest one here. We can cross that 400 off. It's this one. We need to keep going because we require 760. So next on the list here, it's 100 at 24.10. That gets sold. Add it on to the bottom there. We still are short because that only gets us to 500. We need 260 more, and it's going to be coming out of this batch over here. That's why we're valuing at 26.80. And if we've sold 260, it leaves us with 40 out of that batch. And then the most recent purchase added on to the bottom, making sure that when you add all of that, it does come to your total sales quantity of the 760. Right, let's try another one. On the 28th, a further sale, this time only of 10 units at 36 Rand. So we're going to come here in the issues column. We're going to put the 10. And where is the 10 coming from? We're looking at this batch over here. Let's just maybe highlight it so that you can see it a bit. We're looking to take, now what's it done there? Nope. This is a funny business. I'm picking highlights and I want that. No, it won't let me do that. What is the matter with Adobe? It's the most obstinate thing. Let's try a different color then. Right, so the batch that we are currently taking the units out of to sell is this one, because that's the oldest one. It's at the top of the list. So we remove 10 from there, leaves us with the other 30, and that is unsold. So we put that at the bottom. And you see there that I've typed it in a different color, because we've now come to the end of the month, and that will be our closing inventory, consisting of 30 at 26.80, as well as 640 at 23.70. So that's what you will do in order to fill in a table. Then part 2, calculate the value of the closing inventory. So value means that we need two things. Value consists of the number of units as well as the cost price. So how many units? Let me show you how we're going to do this. Okay. We're going to have over here, just look at this one. We have 30 at 26.80. All I'm doing is I'm writing out the bottom right-hand corner of the table. And for the first time, I'm actually going to record it as an amount, because we are asked for the value of the closing inventory. So 804 for the one batch, as well as 640 at 23.70 gives us another amount, which we add. And then our final value of the closing inventory is that. So irrespective of whether you get the perpetual system, where we record each individual transaction, and the FIFO method, you will complete a table like this. If you get the perpetual system and the weighted average method, your table will still look exactly the same. The only difference is when you come to get a cost price. Instead of keeping them in separate batches, you will combine them. Rather listen to my recording on that. We're going to focus on this one this evening. If you have to do the periodic system, we do prepare similar tables. The headings will also be given to you, so don't stress about that. Okay. And the calculation is more or less the same. So what I did say, let's hope everybody understood that. I think it was quite simple. Going to add in some more questions. I'm going to come up with a part 3. Let's just make it somewhat bigger. Part 3, I'm going to ask, just abbreviated here, we want the cost of sales. So all you're going to do now is you're going to go to your issues column, because every time we made a sale, remember we issued them from inventory into sale, and you're just going to add everything that's in the issues column. So let's just type that up here. And a bit smaller. So I'm just going to say here, we are going to add all the entries in the issues column in the table. I'm going to show you what I mean. Everything that is here. This one. So these two, those three, and that one. So I'll leave this for you to check yourself. I'm going to just write in the answer here. When we do all of that, remember you're going to say so many units times so much, so many units times so much, so many units times so much. And then when we add it all together, we're going to get an amount of 38,866. So give that one a bash by yourself. You'll know if you're on the right track if you get that. Then we're going to do number 4. And that was bigger. 4, they can ask you for your sales revenue. This is a nice, easy one. You simply are going to take the amounts out of the table. So over here, let's just get a different color. What could we see? Let's try this one. On these dates here, the 10th and the 26th and the 28th. Those are the days on which the sales took place. So you're simply going to take that straight out the table. And most importantly, when the sales took place, it was at the selling price, not the cost price. So you cannot use your table. You're going to use the question. So it must be at the higher selling price, like this. And then add those together. So let me type in an answer there for you. So what we're going to do here is we are going to add the sales transactions from the question. That's the most important thing, from the question. And in B, we must use, well, typo, selling price, straight out of the question. I'm going to give you the answer for that so that you can check yourself. That comes to 56,136. That's an absolutely easy one. Nobody can get that one wrong. Okay. Then one more thing. Number 5, they could ask us, what is gross profit? Oh, I seem to be getting bigger and bigger, don't I? Let's make it a bit smaller. Any ideas on how we're going to get gross profit? This is simply an accounting, basic finance question. Gross profit, anybody? Super easy. You do know?
Yes.
Go ahead. Gross profit.
Just sales minus cost of sales.
Exactly. Some things are very easy. We don't need to complicate every single thing. So you will then take whatever you got in part 4, and from that you'll subtract whatever you got in part 3, and then your answer will be 17,270. So that is what they can ask you from this section. I think it's quite nice. Obviously not in the task, but in the exam. So you need to obviously practice some more questions. There are some in the book. I'll tell you which ones those are. And you can also find them on my learning unit overview. So I will give you some revision exercises. This is number 1. There can also be number 2 and number 3, and then some from the textbook. Perhaps let me just get the book here now. See, they did change the questions a little bit. Let me see. No, question 5.1 is theory. You don't want that. Okay, these are some things that you can do from the book. As practice, you can do question 5.2. That one is perpetual system. they ask you to do it twice. Firstly, using FIFO method, so that will be a good practice of this, and then repeat it with a weighted average. So if you do my question and you do as practice the first part of question 5.2, that's enough. And then if you do the second part of question 5.2 and you do the ICE task, then you're 100% with a perpetual system. I wouldn't worry about question 5.3 because they complicate matters a bit there where they add in carriage and things like that on the deliveries. So don't do that. And then that will be sufficient. You don't really need to do much more in the way of this. So question 5.2 and ICE 5, and obviously try the whole of this revision exercise 1 by yourself, and I will put up some other revision exercises. But I want us just to focus on the perpetual system using the FIFO method. So how did you find that? I think for a change, it's actually quite straightforward, short and sweet. Shouldn't give anybody any nightmares, I don't think.
Quite simple, this one, miss.
It is. It's very simple. But they're particularly bad at trying to explain it in the textbook. But if you watch somebody do it sort of live, then I think it's very easy. So I will just let you watch the recording. You can try these questions. Maybe don't look at the answer at the same time, and then see how you go. And then I'm happy that we can tick this one off the list. Then what comes next is the cost of inventory. That's section 5.6 in the book. I do want to do the economic order quantity because there will be something like that in the exam. Okay. So that will be the week after we have done the task. And then I said I want to rather leave the apportionments of overheads and move straight on to learning unit 6, because that is possibly the most important section mark-wise for the exam. It counts a large number of marks, 40 marks actually, 40 marks out of the 150. And that is a great section because only 2 possible things can come up. So if we learn those, everybody's got anywhere between 30 and 40 marks. Right, do we have any questions this evening from this? But I think we agree that it was a nice, easy section. Maybe if you had a piece of paper, you were maybe making some notes of this, because remember, at the moment, I don't know how to save this, but I will ask the girl on campus tomorrow if I can have 2 versions of my questions going. Because remember, I need to use this again tomorrow night for another group, so I don't want all of this to be typed up. I just need to make a plan. I'm sure between the 2 of us, we can figure something out. Right, I will then stop sharing. I think we don't need to anymore. And get myself back into Teams. But I know the chat box is still a story. Keenan, I think you're just going to have to take a sedative every Tuesday night and move on the lack of the chat box. Yeah, okay. How are we doing? Chris, Kev, Ganesha, Rory-san, goodness, are we cool with the section?
Yeah, all good, thanks.
All good. Very
Lovely,
easy.
lovely, lovely.
Yes,
Oh, okay, nice, yes. So I will get sorted with the first part of the support for the task. I'll get that to you. I could actually do it tomorrow, but for reasons best known to me and others, I'm only sending it to the other people on the Friday. If you desperately want to start on Thursday, would anybody want to try and get ready in some small way on this coming Thursday, the public holiday? Would you need something from me on the Thursday, or will you do nothing or do something else? Would anybody particularly want some kind of a guidance by Thursday?
Is it possible for us to send either in the group or via email?
Would you like to have it? Is that what you're saying?
Saying that I think it would be better also just to see, to give ourselves time to kind of see if we understand everything, right?
Oh, okay.
And then
Yes.
once
Okay.
that's done, then we can communicate that to you.
Yes. Okay. So what I will do is as soon as I've done the recording tomorrow, I will just download it and put it into the recordings folder, and then you can access it immediately.
Okay,
But just be a bit careful here. I know people are in multiple groups, and sometimes I have people in my group, of my WhatsApp group, that are actually not in my group, which is naughty, shouldn't do that. But just, I don't want you to tell anybody else who's doing the module, if they happen to be in another group, that you have had access to it ahead of them. It won't change anything. It's exactly the same document. But if you do say that you would like to start looking at it on Thursday, I'm happy to share it with you. But can you just please not broadcast it? That's all I'm saying.
no problem.
Okay. So I will let you have that by the afternoon tomorrow. Sure. And then maybe on the Thursday, public holiday, I will do a more detailed one. And I'll share that with you on the Friday, because I do need to get it out of the way because I've got some other marking to do. So the sooner the better. Okay, so Chris, nothing from you? Kev?
I'm all
Keenan?
good.
All
good,
good, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up with the recording. And yeah, onwards and upwards. Next time then. Nighty night.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye,
Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Bye-bye.
Cheryl.
Cheerio.
Good
Bye,
evening,
everyone.
Bye.
Night, night. Bye.